Hello, and thank you for joining me tonight for Profiles with Paulette Payne. In a society where beauty has its own standard and it's been predefined, my guests tonight have gone against the grain, created their own standard, and are empowering women across the world. But before we go to their stories, I want to give you a little bit of information. As you watch tonight, please feel free to, input your comments, your questions. We will certainly get to them as soon as we can. If you find this content valuable, please, by all means, like and follow the page, and certainly share it with your network, your friends and family. The goal of Profiles, which is a weekly virtual program that comes on at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, it's always been to inform, empower, and inspire the viewers. And I hope after tonight's show, you walk away feeling one of those. But now we will go on and get started with the show. I am just so excited about this. This has actually been a topic that I've been intrigued about for quite some time, because just really quickly, my own story. When I was younger, I fell into the trap of thinking that my hair had to be a certain way, that it had to be straight and no kinks, when in reality, my hair is kinky, nappy, as they would say. And so I fell into that trap, and I put scarves around my forehead so my edges would stay straight. And eventually, over time, my edges started coming out to the point where some areas are forever bald. And so I wondered, is this alopecia? And I would do research on it. And, the thought kind of lingered and came periodically over the years. And once I started doing this show, I said, I want to do cover topics that intrigue me. And I know if they intrigue me, they've got to intrigue somebody else. So I'm so excited to learn more about alopecia. Of course, we can't assume that every woman who is bald has alopecia, but we certainly want to address that topic tonight and learn why the women that I'll be speaking with have chosen to present themselves as they have. My first guest is Nell Coleman. She is the founder of the Baldy Movement. You may have heard about it, seen her on Instagram, on social media. She is stunning. She is absolutely stunning. So Nell, thank you for joining me. And let me tell you this really quickly. And she'll tell you more, of course. But the Baldy Movement is an organization that seeks to encourage women to walk with confidence without the need of hair. So that's pretty powerful. Sorry, my producer had the volume up, so we don't want to echo. Our next guest is Kristen Gauthier. Let me find her in the stream. There we go. Hi, Christine. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yes, ma'am. And Christine is the legislative liaison for the National Alopecia Areata Foundation. So I'm really grateful to have that aspect of this topic on the show tonight. Our next guest is Heather Scott. Heather, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Paulette.
Yes, ma'am, my pleasure. And let me tell you this. This is pretty impressive. So Heather is the founder of Helper Hair Box. She'll talk to us a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But it's the first subscription box of its kind. So for women who have challenges in terms of hair loss, see Heather. She will hook you up. And she's also a member of the Baldy Movement. Our next guest is the queen herself, Sarah Pennington. Thank you, Sarah, so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Sarah is the National Miss Heart of the South 2020. So she is the queen of the hour. So thank you, Heather. I'm sorry, Sarah, for joining. And last but not least, so let me tell you a little bit about Talon. So I contacted Nell several weeks ago, and I told her what I was trying to do. And, she really got on the ball quickly to rally her membership. And I received an email from Talon, and I received an email, a picture, and, her story. And I tell you, you guys, when I saw her picture, I was blown away. When I saw all of their pictures, I was blown away. But Talon, I don't know, there's just something about this young woman. And I'm just so grateful that she was so enthusiastic, as all my guests tonight were to come and join tonight. So Talon Stearns, Talon, I'm going to find you in a second. Hold on. There we go. Talon is the founder of Talented Beauty, and she's also a member of the Baldy Movement. Talon, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Now, you guys, at the open, I said they were bald, bold, and beautiful, but I also must say that they are bosses in their own right. We talked about Heather and her subscription box, and Nell and her organization. So I want to give these ladies an opportunity to briefly tell us more about the organization they represent. So Nell, we'll start with you. And what I want you to do, Nell, when you tell us about your organization, give us a little background on the I Refuse campaign.
Okay. So you start with the Baldy Movement first or the campaign?
Whichever is your pleasure.
All right. So I created the Baldy Movement. Well, I created the idea of it in 2012. I simply wanted to create a platform where I could teach women that you don't need hair to be beautiful. It's who you are that makes you a beautiful person. And I know that there were women out there who didn't choose this look, though I chose it because I'm bald by choice, who didn't choose this look and they weren't confident. And so the goal was simply to just bring all of these different women from different walks of life together. And together we would celebrate, support, and empower one another to love ourselves more. And then I Refuse, how that came about was that there were a lot of women who they would tell me privately that their family members and friends would disown them if they showcase their baldness to the public. And so the I Refuse came about where I wanted to challenge these women to say, you know what, I refuse to hide my baldness just for you to be comfortable around me. I refuse to wear wigs to feel and look my best self. I refuse whatever it was that they were experiencing or going through due to negative comments and things of that nature in regards to their baldness. I wanted them to refuse from doing those things and just be confident with their bald heads. So that's where that came from.
Well, that is so empowering and so inspiring. Many times we think we have to conform, but no, we present ourselves the way we feel most confident and most beautiful. And that's a pretty powerful platform you've created. Thank you for sharing that. Christine, I'm sorry. I'd like to go to you next. Talk to us a little about the organization you represent.
Yes, I'm a legislative liaison volunteer with the National Alopecia Areata Foundation. And the NAF, for short, was developed way back in the 70s, 80s in San Francisco. It had a very small group of people when it was first developed. And it's grown into multiple millions of members of people who participate either as volunteers or as patient advocates. My role as a legislative liaison is to advocate for supports for the alopecia community. The organization itself promotes research into alopecia areata. They're funding, and pushing for research for a cure or an effective and easy treatment for the disease. They take care of patients, they provide resources, they support families, and they educate the public. And I've been honored to volunteer with them. For most of the year, I live in the DC metro area, and I have the opportunity to go to Capitol Hill and speak with our elected officials about certain bills we're trying to pass through Congress and the Senate that will provide support ultimately for those with alopecia.
If we have time, if you're able to, I'd like for you to address one of those issues that you present to your congressional leaders.
Sure, happy to.
Thank you. Talon, talk to us a little bit about Talented Beauty.
So, Talented Beauty. Talented Beauty, actually, it's been a vision I've had for about a year now. And even though it's still fairly new, fairly fresh, I'm kind of easing my way into it because I'm still learning how to be a businesswoman, how to market myself, and just how to I took a head first dive into the business world. So I'm still learning. When I launched Talented Beauty, I wanted it to be something all women deserve to feel beautiful, all of us. Like Nell said earlier, the Baldy Movement is about inner beauty. And of course, we all look beautiful now. and we all like to enhance our beauty, you know, whether we're going out or we're just taking photos, however you want to do it. So talented beauty is for every woman from every race, every background, every creed, every color. It's an all inclusive brand. It's not just based on, you know, people of color, people who have hair, who don't have hair. I have had so much support from the Baldy movement. I've had so much support from people from different states. It makes me feel good because I'm still a new business. But I have vegan and cruelty-free lip glosses, lipsticks. I hand make all of my hand scrubs with all natural products. So it's a line that I want to keep it clean. I know a lot of people are investing in clean brands. So I want mine to be one of them, and just use it to enhance, you know, beauty and to make everyone feel beautiful.
That's awesome. And, you know, self-care is the best care.
Very, yes.
Looks like for you. So that is pretty awesome. Thank you so much, Talon, for sharing your business with us. Sarah, talk to us a little bit about you and the organization you represent.
Yes, so I am your USA National Miss Heart of the South. Is anyone else getting feedback, or is that just me?
Yeah, what I'm going to do, let me ask you this. Heather, will you mute your mic? And then when it's time, I'll come to you shortly, and then you unmute yourself. It's just some of the mics, sometimes when they're open, you can get that feedback. Go on, Sarah.
Okay. Yes, I am your USA National Miss Heart of the South. I am a title holder within the USA National Miss Scholarship Organization, which is an organization that represents women ages 4 to 25 all across America. We have title holders in pretty much every state, and we promote doing service, and we promote positive pageantry, which is a movement started by UNM. And we really just want the girl to feel empowered and feel that she can be the best girl that she is possibly able to be. And I really love it because it is very heavily community service based. And I know there's a lot of pageants on TV. There's a lot of misconceptions about pageant girls. And this organization is really fighting to end that and fighting to show the good that pageants hold. And my goal is, when I go to the national pageant in November, is to be the first national title holder who is bald.
That's awesome. And to have this bold confidence to present yourself as you choose to present yourself to the world, it says a lot about you, your bravery, your confidence. And, you know, it also empowers young girls because there are young children that either are dealing with alopecia or some other challenge that may not have the confidence. They may wonder, why do they look different from other girls? And so to see you and to see this representation of beauty is certainly empowering. All right, Miss Heather.
Okay.
Talk to us about this, the first of its kind hair subscription box.
Yes. So I too am new to the entrepreneurial world, and I've had alopecia since the age of 3. So children have always held such a special place in my heart, especially children with hair loss. So when I publicly came out about my hair loss, one of the first things, I had a lot of parents reaching out to me asking how they can support their children, how they can help with bullying at school, and things like that. And I would send a child's wig to them for free. And I'd put little inspiring things inside the box for them, just so they had something to cheer them up, to take their worries away from their hair loss. And that's when it really occurred to me that there's nothing really out there for women or children with hair loss. Like, we don't really have anything that's just for us. There's all kinds of subscription boxes out there, but nothing really for those going through any form of hair loss. So that's kind of how the Helper Hair box was born. And we have 2 different boxes. We have a woman's box and we have a children's box. And they're custom to each woman. So some women with hair loss choose to wear, we call it helper hair. So they choose to wear wigs or toppers, extensions, things like that. And then we have a lot of women who choose to rock the bald look. So the box is catered to them. So for our women who choose not to wear any hair, we have, you know, makeup and accessories and jewelry, like temporary eyebrow tattoos, things to kind of help them with their hair loss journey, but also to inspire them and to remind them that they are beautiful with or without hair. And same thing with our children's boxes. They are filled with things to encourage children. They all include an inspirational book. I try to include books that are written by women with hair loss from alopecia or cancer, just so the children have a fun book to read in every box. And it's also filled with, cute things that might say fearless or I'm beautiful, things to remind them how beautiful they are and that they don't need hair to feel beautiful. And a part of my business to give back to the children in our hair loss community is for every 6 boxes that are sold, I donate a box to a child with hair loss. And for every 12 boxes sold, I donate a children's wig to a child. Wow. And the parents can go online and they can fill out a form and request a box or request a wig, and we get that off to the children.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's see, somebody's mute their mic. Okay. Maybe it's, let's see. I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah. So that is a beautiful platform, not only for older women, mature women, but for children as well, because, when people can see themselves, representation is critical, regardless of the circumstance. And for children to be able to see themselves in each of you, and for women to see themselves in each of you, is pretty powerful. And you ladies, I hope you're doing, I'm not sure where you are on your journey, but in my eyes, you're doing God's work. So kudos to you. Kudos to you. Now, so I want to get to the meat of this conversation. At the open, I said not all women who are bald necessarily have alopecia. So if each of you would briefly express to us and tell the viewers what inspired or what sparked your journey. Sarah, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I actually have a condition called trichotillomania. Trichotillomania, or trick for short, is a body-focused repetitive behavior, or a BFRB. Other BFRBs include skin picking, nail biting, cheek biting, etc., but trichotillomania is a hair pulling disorder. I actually developed this when I was just 11 years old, and at the time, we had never heard of the condition. So if you're sitting there watching this saying, I've never heard of trick, you're not alone. I didn't either until it actually happened to me. And I started pulling my eyebrows and my eyelashes, and then eventually a few years later, I went to my head hair. And that's when things started getting really bad, because I had this giant bald patch on my head at 13 years old, and I felt really self-conscious. So I hid it under hats and wigs for years. And then when I was 16, my mental health kind of had hit a culmination of being just really, really bad. And I was hospitalized in a psychiatric residential program. And when I was in there, I was focused on, stopping pulling out my hair. Unbeknownst to me, my therapist's goal was actually to get me to accept who I was. And so he said, one of the things that you have to do to get out of this hospital, which, kind of was the end goal, was to take my hat off in public and show them that I was bald. And I was petrified of doing that. But eventually we weaned it down to I just had to do it for 1 minute. So I took the hat off, and it wasn't like everyone was staring at me. They were doing their own work, which made me feel a little bit better. And I took it off, and my anxiety spiked. But then the world didn't end. Nothing bad happened. And I realized, oh my gosh, I've been hiding this for 5 years, and it's not like this horrible thing that I had expected it to be. So gradually from there, I got more and more comfortable. And then eventually I was sick of just having this patchy hair that was just happening because I'd pulled parts of it out. And I said, you know what, we're just shaving it all off. And I haven't looked back. And I really am so grateful that I was able to take that step. And now I can share with you all that there are people out there who have trichotillomania who are bald because of it, and we are just as beautiful as everyone else.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, Sarah, you're hearing your story. I started getting teary-eyed because I remember when I shaved my head, it wasn't for any other reason other than COVID. I couldn't get to a barber to get my afro cut. But the first day, my sister helped me get all the hair off because, I didn't know what I was doing. And so she literally shaved it down to the scalp. And I I was so scared to go out in public because, the world around me was so used to an afro, and I didn't know what people would think. You don't know what people will think. Who cares? Who cares? And to walk boldly in your baldness, or whatever the case may be, is a powerful thing. And thank you so much for sharing that. Heather, talk to us about your journey. And I just want the viewers to know, please, if you have questions, put them in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to them before the end of the show. Heather?
Okay, so I have alopecia. Mine started at just the age of 3. So mine started as alopecia areata, and it started with a small patch at the top of my hair, at the top of my scalp when I was just 3 years old. My parents have pictures at Christmas with me with this little spot at the top of my head. And because of my age, my parents took me to a doctor. There was nothing they could do because I was so young at that time. They just said, just leave it be. And that hair grew back, and I never knew about this. And then when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was sitting in class one day, and every day before I went to school, my dad would do my hair because my dad was always home in the morning. So I had long hair, and he would put it up in a half clip every day for school. And he would braid my hair. And so I'm sitting in class, and a classmate is like, "What happened to your hair?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "There's no hair behind your ear." And I went to the bathroom, and sure enough, like a huge chunk of hair had just fallen out. And I swear it was there in the morning because my dad had did my hair. Like, he would have noticed if there was a big chunk missing. So I still to this day, I think there's a big chunk of hair that had fallen out at school somewhere because I don't know what happened to it. It's not like it was on my pillow or anything like that. It was just magically not there one day. So I had no idea what was going on. I ran down to the principal's office, and they allowed me to go to my mom's work, which is really close to the school. And I was like crying, and I'm like, "What's happening?" And my mom just had this look on her face, like she knew what was happening. And she's like, "Okay, we need to go to a dermatologist." And they said, "Okay, it's alopecia." And at that point, I was starting treatments. So I'd have a topical solution that I would rub on my scalp to try and stimulate the hair growth. And I was also doing steroid injections into my scalp, which was the most painful thing I had ever gone through, ever. Tiny needles being injected, hundreds of little needles being injected into my scalp. And I just hated it. That lasted for a couple years. And then at the same time, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So I had 2 autoimmunes attacking my system at the same time. So I remember being in the hospital, and I probably only had like 25% of my hair at that time. And I was getting injections in my scalp, and then they tell me I'm type 1 diabetic, so that I have to have insulin injections. And it was a really tough time in my life as a child going through all of this. And then my hair kind of grew in and fell out for the next about 5 to 6 years. I kind of went through that cycle of it regrowing. It would grow in here and then fall out here. This would grow in, it would fall out somewhere else. So it was always playing catch up. And at that point, I was like, I don't want to do any more treatments. I don't want to go through that pain anymore. So I just said, I'll let my body do what it's going to do. And then by the time I got to high school, I had lost almost pretty much 90% of my hair. And that's when I started to wear wigs. And I never told anybody about my alopecia because I didn't know anybody else with the condition. When I was younger, I didn't actually meet anybody that had this condition until I was in my 20s. And it was a male that I had met, and he didn't want to talk about it. So I didn't know anybody who had alopecia. So I kind of just hid under a wig for 20 years, not telling anybody, not even my closest friends. And that's kind of my story until about a year and a half ago when I came out publicly about my hair loss. So the only person who had ever seen me with a bald head was my husband and my parents. And I just came out to social media one day. I'm like, okay, I've had enough. This is me. This is who I am. So it's been wonderful since then to come out about my hair loss and to educate others and to be there for others, and especially children going through what I went through.
You know, when you can shed not only the hair, when you can shed the shame that might be associated with this, and the guilt of, you know, some women may feel guilty because they don't have hair, and once you can shed that, you have walked in your power. And it reminds me of Congresswoman Presley, who had the same story. The only people that saw her bald were her husband and her child, you know. But when she came out, oh my gosh, that was so powerful. And it was so empowering for those with and without hair. Thank you, Heather. Let's see, Talon, briefly tell us why you choose to present yourself as a bald woman. Make sure you
I had to unmute myself. You know what? I haven't felt more beautiful and more fierce and more powerful than any other time in my life other than right now. And it's so crazy. I believe Sarah mentioned this. She said it was not the end of the world. And I am bald by choice. It just wasn't the end of the world. The thing is, when we make it an issue as women, when we make anything an issue, whether it's our weight, whether it's our hair, whether it's our skin, that's when people notice. But when we walk in it and we pretend that there is not an issue, there is not a problem, there is not a care in the world, that's when not only do they accept it, but we start to, when we accept it, which is the most important thing, it's like, you know what do I need hair for? Like you said, like we all can agree, it's about who we are. It's about our spirit, how we treat others, and how we conduct ourselves. It's not about what we have on or what our hair looks like. Because I can attest to being in high school, I was the girl that had the fresh wrap. I had the relaxed, I had all kinds of stuff going on. I colored my hair, I trimmed it, I did all kinds of stuff. And by the time I got to my junior year, I had like this little mohawk thing. Like literally, I had shaved it down to like a patch of hair at the top. I was very experimental. I colored it. I had a lot of heat damage. I wasn't caring for my hair like I should have been. So by the time I got to my senior year, I'm 17 years old, and I said, you know what? I'm done with this patch up here. I'm through. And my mom had a wavelength fade too. So she was like, well, just cut it off. And I said, excuse me? And she said, yeah, come on, we'll go to the barbershop. And to know that my mother was that bold, she had worn her hair short for like 13 or 15 years, something like that. And so she was like, well, let's just go to the barber. We're going to the barbershop and we'll cut it off. And I said, I don't know. But I said, you know what? Forget it. Let's just go. Let's just do it. So he got the cut and he didn't ask me if I was sure you want to do this. He just cut it off. And at first I was like, everybody's going to think I'm a boy now. And I was immediately worried about what other people were going to say and how they were going to respond, as opposed to how I felt about it. I didn't know how I felt about it. I had so many different emotions. I was like, okay, I just cut all my hair off, and the rest of it, rather the little percentage that I had left, I don't know what I'm going to do now because I can't grow it back overnight. So I went to school the next day, and people were looking really, some people were like, huh? And then other people, the boys, were like, who's your barber? And it took me by surprise, because I'm like, the boys are asking who's my barber? And I'm expecting them to be more, aggressive with it and be mean, because, kids are mean at any age. They can be very cruel. But as I got older, the guy I was even dating loved it. And I was like, I was really surprised by that. So as I got older, I didn't go completely bald until about maybe 3 years ago. But I can honestly tell you, it is so freeing. It is so freeing to get up, not have to worry about your hair, not have to worry about the comb and the brushing, the flat ironing, the whatever it is your morning routine is. It is so freeing to not have to worry about that, because I have two daughters. I have a 7-year-old and I have a 2-year-old who have a lot of hair. They have a lot of hair, and it's like, I'd rather take care of theirs than mine. But I know for me, I get more compliments now than I ever did when I had hair on my head. Yeah. And I've learned that beauty it's not about, and you've learned, you weed out who's really who really loves you for you and who really likes you for you and who really only cares about your external. And the thing about it is, when I shave my head, that's part of my self-care too.
Right, exactly.
When I get that razor going or clippers, whatever you use, that's part of my self-care. I feel so, it's sexy too. It's like, it's a sexy thing for a woman to not have hair and be like, yeah, and oh, I
That's
don't have
right.
hair. What do you want? What do you want me to do about it? And
Right.
those insecurities people will deflect onto you because of how they truly feel about themselves.
And that's an important point. People deflect
Mhm.
on you the way they feel about
Yep.
themselves. Thank you for sharing that, Talon. Christine, talk to us a little bit about your journey.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so honored to be with you all. I first came down with alopecia, the same bald spot that you were talking about, Heather, right up here, same place when I was, it became a chronic condition when I was 30 years old, on my 30th birthday, actually. But when I was 9 months old, I had an almost fatal allergic reaction to milk. Was rushed to the hospital and spent several hours, I think possibly a day and a half in the NICU, on a steroid drip because my body had responded so violently to milk. And shortly thereafter, I developed my first bald spot. And there was very little known about the disease at the time. My mother took me to my pediatrician. He told her not to worry about it. And for my mom, who was a brand new mom, she thought, well, what else can I do? I'm her mother. I have to fix this somehow. But there was nothing that anyone could do. And it really wasn't until, as I mentioned, I turned 30 that my hair started to fall out in clumps. I was going through graduate school and I was working several jobs. I was pretty stressed out, not sleeping a lot. And I think the stress definitely exacerbated the condition, but alopecia as an autoimmune disease is, it affects our bodies. And I've lost my eyebrows. I haven't lost all of my eyelashes, but when I have the opportunity, or when you'd like to talk with me about some of what I do on Capitol Hill, I'll definitely take this off and show you what my hair looks like now. But the journey for me has been, I wouldn't have been able to talk with you about alopecia 15 years ago when this started to happen, when my hair was falling out, without crying. And it really wasn't until I started volunteering with the National Alopecia Areata Foundation that I kind of, like you, Heather, met other people with alopecia for the first time in my life. I think it was 2.5, 3 years ago. I met the first person I ever knew existed who had alopecia, and it was the most wonderful, validating conversation to have with someone about the emotional journey, the struggles with insurance, the struggles with doctors, feeling out of control with your own body, not being able to control what was happening to me. And also not really understanding how to approach the world, and my identity was really just changing overnight and not understanding how to be me without my hair. And so I started volunteering with NAF, in part because I was ideally located to Capitol Hill. I was new to the DC metro area and I wanted to do something that would be both socially rewarding for me and make me feel as though I was making a difference for others who have alopecia. And so my conversations on Capitol Hill also led to a YouTube channel that I've developed called Alopecia in Life. And I know, Heather, there are at least 500 people who are going to probably be talking to you soon about the boxes you put together, because getting a wig is of primary importance, according to the views on the videos that I posted. A lot of people with alopecia or with other medically related hair loss really struggle finding some sort of a cover for their heads. And we all go through our own process, our own journey of acceptance, I think, with hair loss that we can't control. And I think, it's important for people to be able to have something like this as an option to wear while they're going through that journey, because I definitely, Sarah, you mentioned your mental health was really in the tank for a while. And I lost years of sleep, cried buckets of tears, wasn't really able to talk to my family or my friends about it because it was such an emotionally wrenching conversation. And definitely not with guys. Oh my gosh. I mean, it changed everything about dating, about how I felt about my sexuality, myself as a woman. And so I'm very grateful for you, Nell, for creating your organization. I think it's amazing. I'm so grateful that you're all presenting yourselves here today. And you're helping me with my journey as well.
Oh gosh, you ladies are gonna make me cry real baby tears before this night is over. Now, talk to us briefly about your journey.
All righty. Okay, so back in 2008, I was natural, and I was attending a college, and I was on a dance team. And at this point in my life, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna embrace my natural hair. I'm gonna grow it out, have this big old sexy afro. Um, and so I was growing it out, and I joined the dance team. And the dance instructor, she would always tell me that I would have to press my hair when I come to practice. And I would be like, well, why do I have to press my hair? It's practice. Why do I have to put heat on my hair every single day and damage my hair just to sweat it out? I only want to press it when it's time to perform. So it got to a point to where she and the band director approached me. And she told me, if you don't perm your hair, then we're going to kick you off the team. And so, and my argument with her was, well, there was another young lady who had hair like mine. And she said, well, her hair, your hair is more African-ish. So you need to press your hair. And hers is more of a loose kind of cuter curl, I guess you would say. And so I guess because hers was more appealing, she could keep her afro, but I had to perm mine. So since I didn't want to get kicked off the team, I permed it. And a week later, I fractured my foot, and my dance career was over. So then after that, my confidence kind of went downhill from there. And then I transferred to another school, and I had a family member who, well, let me rewind back. So once I permed it, I grew it back out, and I went back natural, and I cut the permed hair off. And so I had a family member who would always try to encourage me to put a texturizer in my hair because she felt that my afro was too rough looking, and that the texturizer would make it look a bit more cute and loose and curly. So I got to a point where I was tired of trying to fix and alter myself in order for people to accept me, or for people to be comfortable around me. And I said, you know what? I am sick of this, and I am ready to just remove myself from this. So I chopped my hair off, and I said, I'm going to teach myself that I don't need hair to be beautiful. And from there, I just started to walk with confidence with it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I did hide it. I hid it for the first 6 months. And then I had a guy encourage me to take it off and to just be confident with my baldness. Even though I chose to do it, I was afraid of what people would think, especially men. I didn't think guys would find me attractive as a bald woman. So that's why I wore the wig. And I've even had guys tell me when I wore the wigs that I don't date bald women. And so in that moment, I said, well, I'm going to take this wig off, and I'm just going to embrace who I am, because what you see is what you get. And so that's what it was from there.
What you see is what you get. And the thing that the story or the thread that connects each of you is certainly you had this moment of doubt and of fright and of uncertainty. But once you embraced it, no one could tell you anything otherwise, and it's true. Once you relinquish people's opinions and even your own opinion initially about who you are, and you step into your power, that's when the acceptance comes. That's when you're able to be an example for other people, because I really believe we can't be full examples to other people until we have accepted and done some internalizing work ourselves, so that we can present this confident woman. And you each have done that, and that's awesome. Christine, I want to come back to you and talk a little bit about what you do on Capitol Hill, and share with us some of the policies that you've been able to pass and some of the things that you all are currently working on.
I love your positive talk, Paulette. We haven't passed anything yet, but we're working on it. So the biggest thing that I talk with our legislators about is a bill called HR 3332, which is a House resolution bill that would change the language to Medicare to qualify wigs as durable medical equipment, because as you probably know, Heather, in your work, insurance companies don't recognize alopecia or any medically related hair loss as being anything other than a cosmetic problem. And as we're talking about now, and as I'm sure whoever's watching this can relate, there are so many different attachments to hair that people say it's just hair, but it's not just hair. I mean, when you start to lose your hair, you have no control over it. When I was 30 and I started losing my hair, I was like, I just graduated from grad school. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. Everything's going to happen. And then this happened, and all of that came to a screeching halt. And because of the emotions attached to one's hair, especially when one is not prepared to lose it. As you mentioned, Paulette, our culture is very, and as we're all discussing, there are so much judgment attached to hair. And so this cranial prosthetic is custom made for me. It costs about $3,000. By a miracle, my insurance company covers it. And I really don't want to leave my job, primarily because my insurance company covers this thing. It also covers the medication that I'm on, the autoimmune or the immune suppressant that I'm on that's helping to grow my hair back. But for most people who can afford something like this, I mean, this is the look without the hair. And this thing helps me, at least at this point in my life, it helps me feel confident at my job. I work with kids, I work with other professionals, and I've chosen to present myself to the world with a wig, but there are other times when I choose not to. So having coverage for wigs is something that we're really pushing hard in Congress and the Senate, so that people don't have to struggle, because it's emotionally wrenching enough to lose your hair out of the clear blue sky and have no resources. The other thing that we try to do is to increase awareness, because as you know, Heather, who knows about alopecia? There are very few people who do. It can be very isolating, especially when you're going through the initial stages of losing your hair. We also are advocating for research. We advocate for research dollars to be infused into the National Institutes of Health, and a specific branch of the NIH that does research on musculoskeletal and skin diseases. And through the research that has been happening, we have several different treatment options. None of them is a silver bullet, but there is increasing evidence that what are called Janus kinase inhibitors, or JAK inhibitors, and immunosuppressant are going to be very effective, kind of the wave of the future for autoimmune treatment, and specifically for alopecia areata. They found, as you know, Heather, that people with one autoimmune disease typically have two or three. It's like a tree, the roots and then the tree. You have the root problem, and then it manifests in several different ways. These autoimmune diseases typically affect women more than men. So I think it's, as a woman, I feel like it's really important for me to speak on behalf of other women who have not just alopecia, but like my sister has rheumatoid arthritis. She was just diagnosed, and looking for treatments to help improve people's quality of life. This is a cosmetic change, of course, that happened to me, but alopecia itself is a medical disease, and people lose their nose hair, they lose their eyebrows, their eyelashes. Hair has a function. And I think it's important to obviously be comfortable in our own skin, but I think especially for legislators, they need to hear the medical impacts that come along with having an autoimmune disease like alopecia. People get more sick, they get sick more often. Some of my friends, my volunteer friends, talk about how they need to prep themselves extra hard before they go on a plane ride, because they know that if they don't, they're definitely going to come down with something, because they don't have those filters that we all otherwise would have on our face to keep germs away. So so this, it's a cosmetic problem, but it's a medical disease that requires the same amount of attention that any other medical disease deserves, for treatment and hopefully a cure someday. And that's what we're pushing for.
Well, Kristen, first, you know, when you took your wig off, I'm so sorry. That was powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, it's definitely kind of a showstopper when I go to Capitol Hill as well. Because I mean, it's a prop, right? I mean, you walk in there and you look totally normal, and then you take it off, and people are like, "Oh, that's what it is. Okay, I get it now."
And you're right. It's a disease. It's an illness that needs to be treated just like any other illness, and you need to have the funding so that you can be treated for a medical issue.
Exactly.
You know? And I'm glad you broke that down for us, because I didn't even consider that piece. So I'm thank you for breaking that down for us. Now, you were talking about, you know, friends that have to prepare extra, you know, they have to do a little more in preparation for travels. I noticed on the website that there's just a portion that discusses COVID-19. How does, because of course COVID-19, as we all know, one of the among the vulnerable are those with autoimmune issues. So talk to us just briefly, Christine, about how you all talk to your members, or what you all are preparing, or how you've talked to your members about COVID-19 and steps to take to protect themselves.
So I have to apologize. I don't have a lot of information about that specifically, but NAF does have resources on its website specifically for that issue. The doctor that I'm working with at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City, who prescribes the medication called, its generic name is tofacitinib. Its medical name is Xeljanz. It's one of the JAK inhibitors that I mentioned. When I called her when COVID first hit, I said, "So what's up? What do I need to worry about?" And she said, "Actually, you know, so there's no evidence. Everything is so brand new. We don't have a lot of research into how does COVID specifically affect someone with alopecia areata." Her general advice to me as her patient was that my autoimmune system, my immune system is so strong that, you know, when the next Ebola virus comes, I might be the last one standing, because my immune system just knocks things out left and right. That said, I'm not being stupid about protecting my health. And I know that with the volunteers that I've worked with in the past, COVID aside, with other flus, colds, they themselves experience feeling more susceptible, getting sick more often, as I mentioned. And so I think there is that added vulnerability. But again, we just don't know. We don't know for sure. I'm trying to walk that line of not freaking out, but also being cautious and smart.
Certainly, as of course we all should, most definitely. Sarah, I want to talk to you a little bit about pageantry, and how seeking this title, and of course the national title, what has that done for you? I know, you know, you're already confident and bold, but pursuing this lofty ambition, you know, where there's so many preconceptions around pageantry in and of itself. How did pursuing this goal impact you emotionally, mentally, in terms of beauty? Talk to us a little bit about that, this journey of pageantry for you.
Absolutely. So I'm holding a 2020 title, but I began competing about 5 years ago, little less than 6 months after I first went public with my disorder and said, you know, I have trichotillomania, and this is why my hair has been all funky-dunky for the past however many years. And the first time I competed, quite honestly, I didn't know what to expect, because I knew I was infiltrating an industry that historically had promoted women with long hair. And so I was like, you know what, we're just going to go in and hope for the best. And I won my first pageant, and I was so shocked because I thought that I would have to be breaking down so many barriers even just to win that first title. But something about my story had clicked with the judges, and they wanted to choose me. So, you know, there was a process of, do I compete with a wig? Do I not compete with a wig? I only competed with a wig once, and afterwards I was like, never again. Nope, not doing it. And then it was, do I fill in my hair patches with color? And so I did that for a little while, and then I was like, screw this, we're just shaving it all off. And that process really helped me kind of come to terms with my bald journey as well. And it's really been amazing because, as you mentioned, there are children who don't see themselves represented in the general public, let alone in pageantry. And last year I was holding a different title, but I was in a room with about 28 other title holders. And it was this event at this restaurant, and there's this little girl who came up to me, and she like beelined it to me because this little girl has cancer and she was completely bald. And of all the girls in the room, she knew that she could relate to me because she saw herself reflected in someone with a crown. And I kept in contact with her for many months, supporting her, giving her FaceTime when she was in the hospital. And those are the moments that I truly live for. And as much as they've helped me, or much as I've helped them, they've helped me. And it's just truly amazing to be able to be inspiration for people. I always go into events and I always say, no matter what I'm speaking about, who I'm speaking to, how many people, I mean, I've done events from like 50 to like literally 7,000 people. And I say, I just want to impact one of them. As long as I can get through to one of them, whether it's about being bald or just being yourself and loving that you are not defined by society standards, I've done my job. And that is what I absolutely love about pageantry. The crown is a microphone, in my opinion. It gets people's attention long enough that you can share whatever message you're passionate about. And for me, that's this message.
Oh, gosh. You ladies are so inspiring. I'm sorry, I'm just fangirling over here. Forgive me. Heather, talk to me quickly about why you chose to join.
Yeah, so join the Baldy movement. It's what you're saying, right? You cut out for me. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So I joined probably a year and a half ago before I came out publicly. And it was because the members of the group, their confidence and their beauty, they really encouraged me to just go for it and do it. And I found so much inspiration inside that group that they really encouraged me to just be my true self and to just own the baldness. And I tell you, the women inside are fierce. There's what is it, Nell, on Saturdays? Like beautiful Saturdays, own your beauty on Saturdays. Yeah, that's it. And the ladies are just amazing in there, and it doesn't matter your race, your background, just we all just we're bald and we connect, and that's really all that matters. And I'm so thankful for the group. And there's a cruise that hopefully will still happen that Nell is organizing. It's, a Baldy cruise. And how amazing is that we're able to go on a cruise and just all be ourselves and not have to worry about hair or how we look. And we could just all hang out and just be our true self. And I think that's so amazing and exciting and something exclusive just for us. So awesome. I love all the ladies in the group. And we have some little kids in there too, and they're fierce. Let me tell you, they're paving ways for themselves.
Because of you all, you have chosen to define yourself for yourself and present yourself the way you see yourself. Talon, really quickly, talk to us a little bit about why you chose to affiliate with the Baldy movement.
You know what? I honestly don't even remember how I come to be. I don't know if it was Instagram. It might have been Instagram, but I know I'm all the way in Ohio, so I'm in the Midwest, where being a woman of color and not having hair of some sort, whether it's bundles, whether it's braids, whatever, even a nice wig, you know what I mean, whatever the case may be, it's just like you're supposed to jump on the bandwagon with everybody else. You're supposed to look like everybody else. And it's like, why look like everybody else when I can be me and own who I am unapologetically? So when I saw that that's what the body movement promoted, and that's what they stood on, and that's how we helped each other, because sometimes there are still days when I struggle with insecurities about it. Like, should I grow my hair back out? Should I do? And then I try to let it grow a little bit, and I'm like, no, it just ain't me no more. It's just not me anymore. It's just not even a little bit. To have a little bit of hair on my head is not me anymore. And it's okay, because Nell, when she founded this, she had a vision. She birthed that baby. She gave birth to the body movement, and she wanted women who, whether we had, autoimmune disease, or whether we just wanted to be free from that weight. And I feel like that's where my came, my, you know what I mean, my reasoning for wanting to be a bald woman is the weight of having to be accepted, or wanting to be accepted, yearning for that acceptance from other people. And once, like you said, once we relinquish all of that and just relinquish everyone's opinions of us, and even my own opinion some days, I felt like that weight was lifted. And the body movement is something that does that for everyone, even some of the ladies that still struggle with it. I feel like the encouragement that we get from one another, it pushes us. It pushes us to know that our beauty is unmatched, no matter if we have hair on our heads or not. Sorry, I had to move because my phone was getting ready to die. But I truly, truly commend Nell and all of you ladies who suffer from alopecia, because I know I didn't know much about alopecia prior to this moment. I heard about it, but to know that I'm educated, and to know that we all have a common denominator, which is we're bald and beautiful, and we embrace it. And that in itself is a great feeling, to know that, because it's hard this day and age, because women of color, women period, we can claw at each other based on our appearances. It doesn't matter, we will downplay each other based on, oh, she doesn't have any hair. And we can be mean too. We can be really cruel, not even know. We can make these assumptions about women just because we don't have hair. We just don't want hair. I mean, we don't have to give you an explanation behind it. We don't have to explain ourselves. Right. We just don't want it. We just don't want to. Yeah. And if we choose to go and buy some hair, or make a wig, or if we want to, be versatile and add those different styles, we can do that too. But the thing about it is, we can do that and be okay with it. And even though we don't have hair, we're still okay with ourselves.
Right. That's right.
We're okay.
That's right. Self-acceptance. That's where it starts. And Nell, I wanted to end with you because, of course, you are the creator of the baldy movement, whether women choose to be bald by choice or because of a medical condition. You have created this platform for women to stand on, and stand on proudly. So at the close of the show, I'd like for you to leave us with some final thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that I always say is, there's nothing more beautiful than a woman who's unafraid to be herself. I can't stress that enough. And I always like to let the ladies know that hair doesn't determine your beauty or worth. You do. And you have to remember that. So many of us, we feel, well, here's my thing. I'm not against hair.
Sure.
But I don't push our women to wear wigs simply because of this. When you go home and you look in the mirror, you still have to face who you truly are. And that's the person you need to fall in love with.
That's right. That's the person you need to fall in love with. And once you fall in love with self, oh my, you have conquered. You have conquered the world, truly. Mm-hmm. Ladies, thank you so much for your transparency, for your vulnerability, for your honesty, and for making me cry tonight. Y'all, I wasn't going to cry tonight. But thank you. Thank you so much. And I pray that everything that you all are seeking, Christine with the legislation, Talon with more marketing acuity and knowledge and presenting yourself and your business as this woman who has the tools that you need to accomplish the beauty goals that you have. I pray that that comes to fruition for you. Sarah, you will have this national title. I'm just going to claim it right now. And Heather, all the best to you with this first of its kind beauty hair subscription. You're going to change lives as you already have. And Nell, girl, keep on doing what you're doing, because women, girls, they're looking up to you. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining me tonight. And thank you for watching. Come back next week, same time, same location, for a conversation with actress, author, and vocalist Latrice Pace. Until then, thank you for watching again. And in all you do, be kind, be compassionate, and certainly show yourself some grace. Thanks, y'all. And I appreciate you watching. Good night.